recording.
Okay,
So from now on, we have to watch what we say because it's being a permanent record.
exactly.
But God is always watching what we say anyway. So, we don't need to record. Somebody once said God is recording everything that you do to play it back at the end, Uh, there was a movie called Defending Your Life where Albert Brooks, they would show a couple of scenes from things he did in his life. He said, why'd you have to pick those particular scenes? I did a lot of good stuff in my life too. So, all right, people are joining. I'm adding them as they come up. Oh, your dog is adorable. Do you have to take your dog out in the dead of winter?
Yes, yes. So I don't know what she's going to do when it gets extremely cold here.
Is it
coming.
supposed to be like 0 in the next few days or
Try negative numbers.
something? Oh my goodness. -17 on Saturday.
Yeah. Hi, Hazel. Hi, Grayson. Hi, Jackson.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'll turn on my the synagogue background. So
Well, here I thought you were going to be making us sick walking through the synagogue, bouncing around with your
no,
computer.
no, I did that once, but I think it's getting a GoPro. You can wear this helmet
Oh,
camera.
that
and
would
then-
be awesome.
But just tell them when the weather gets nice and the pandemic goes away and we're all vaccinated, that they're certainly welcome to have an actual tour with snacks and refreshments and everything. So
Okay.
look forward to it. Okay, we got a lot of people here.
Yeah. Normally I have a boys group that meets at 5:30 and then the girls gather at 6:30. But today we're all gathering together. So
Oh, that's really nice.
yeah.
I'll be right back. Let's get some
Okay.
water.
Hello, Pearl and Ella and Wesley. Hey, Pearl, I like your ceiling. It almost looks like my wall. That's awesome. So how does it feel to be, for those of you who are back in school, how does it feel to be back in school?
I think it's a lot better than being like online.
What do you think, Pearl?
I agree.
You agree? And Hazel, you've been mostly in school the whole time, right? Or no?
I have the option, but I've been virtual the whole time.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. I remember that now. Hi, Johanna. Oh, you're going to serenade us too? Awesome.
Yeah, but music reaches the soul without any, without any interference, So group singing is a big part of Jewish practice, And one thing I learned though from Christian practice is projecting the words on the screen so everybody could see them, rather than having to face down in the hymnal all the time, And it really made a difference in people's, participation. It was great. So.
And you've been doing all online
Since March
worship.
of last year, where our building's
Okay.
been closed like Fort Knox, absolutely.
But I know you had a tent out in your yard for a while.
Yeah, because for the high holy days, for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, some people only go once or twice a year, and we set it up with social distancing. We could fit 50 or 60 people out in the yard. We rented a canopy during that 1 month, so in case it was too sunny or rainy. But the weather was perfect in October. This year, the high holidays fall in September. So, except for mosquitoes that might still be around, they like being outdoors. Now they have to wear masks and they have to sit at least 6 or 8 feet apart, but they sit with their families. But people love that. That was the first time in 6 months they've been, praying together. So they couldn't hug each other or kiss each other like they do every week when they come to services. So that was a hard part. So,
Okay.
are we all here?
And we're not all here. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're about half here.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and get started. I'm glad to see most of the young ladies are here. I know the past couple of weeks, some of the boys have been having practices and things like that for sports, so that might be interfering. But why don't we get started? Hello, 7th graders. If you could just turn your cameras on all, at least for an instant, so Rabbi Brian can see your beautiful faces. That would be wonderful. So the Congregation Sons of Abraham, I don't know how many of you know where that's at, but it's a close neighbor to our church. It's just, 3 blocks away?
Yeah, we're at between 18th and 19th.
Okay.
On King Street. So yes.
Yeah. And I've known Rabbi Brian for a few years now. When I first met you, I had to call you Cantor Brian. So I'm hoping you'll perhaps share what that means when you were originally Cantor and now you're a rabbi and all
sure.
that. But I'm gonna turn it over to you, and I got some questions that they sent to me that if we can ask later on, but please go ahead with whatever you had planned. But this is part of my 7th grade class, and we're very happy that you're taking time out to meet with us.
Well, welcome everybody for coming in from downhill skiing at Mount de la Crosse and from cross country. We go over by the golf course for that, but we've been outdoors a lot, and I suppose you folks have been doing that too. I bought a new sled that fits me and my son in it. So the only problem with sledding is you have to carry the thing back up the hill again. So sledding is great. We found a hill near the second bluff, not Grandad's, but it's Miller, I guess it is, but over by Hickson Woods. And it was like a good, 10-minute ride down the hill. It took us 20 minutes to get back up the hill. So, my son got bored with that very quickly. He said it's much easier to work with a mouse and a joystick than a sled. So I don't know if that sled's going to be used again this winter or not. So, but do try to get out there when it's nice, sunny like it was today. So my name is Brian Searle, Rabbi Brian. I've been here about 2.5 years, and it feels so much longer. I love being in La Crosse. I'm big, as you can tell, on cross-country skiing. My son, who's 12, loves to go bike riding. And he used to only be able to go 10 miles, and then he'd want to quit. We went to Trempealeau and back on the bike trail. We went to Trempealeau, had walnut burgers at the Trempealeau Hotel, and came back. That was 40 miles. So he was tired, but he's learned to go longer distances when he goes with his dad. So there's so many great. We've gone kayaking down both the La Crosse River and the Black River, and actually we got stuck in the Mississippi going downstream too fast. Also, so don't ever do that. So yeah, we love being here. My original job as cantor meant that I was in charge of prayers, group singing. I know in other religions and other faiths, they also have somebody who leads services. It can be called a cantor or something else, a soloist or a choir director. But I went to rabbinical school, so that I completed that last year. After a long period of study, I became a rabbi. Rabbi doesn't make you any holier than the next person, because in Judaism, we believe that God, you can talk to God directly. You don't need a priest or a minister in between to tell you. So you can talk to God direct, but a rabbi can give you some prayers to say and help people during difficult times. Unfortunately, this last year, we've had people in the hospital, and of course, we couldn't visit them either, which made it even more difficult. So we're here to help. And part of that is people love to do things besides play games on the internet. Not my 12-year-old son. That's what he does between going to school every day from 8 till 2 on his computer. He really used to like being on his computer all the time. Now he hates the computer and can't wait to get off it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and do something else other than look at the screen. So that's changed during this pandemic. Also during the pandemic, we can't meet. As you can see from our picture here, we have a beautiful building. We have room for like 100 people to sit together and pray, but we can't do that. You know, if we do that, somebody might get sick. So we have to be careful about meeting in groups. So we've been meeting on Zoom since March of last year. And some people don't like Zoom because you can't hug people when you come in and see them each week. But other people said this is a great way to reach each other. And when it's cold out, they don't have to get dressed up and go in a freezing cold car and wait till it heats up. They can just come here in their living room or their dining room and get together with other people. So it's that's really important because a big part of Judaism says you can't really be by yourself. It's very much a religion. I think that's true of most faiths. It's a faith of community. We don't really have any monks or nuns. You know, the idea is you have to make a group. In fact, we don't consider a group a full grouping until you have 10 people praying together. So there's kind of a requirement that we get together with at least 10 people before we can say most of our prayers, because it's kind of something from the Bible that said you really have to have a group in order to pray together. So before I start telling you more about Judaism, I know you probably have some questions about our faith and what about Jews or Jewish food or whether Jews prefer cross country or downhill. It's cross country for me. I don't like falling down and getting up, so cross country is a very Jewish thing. Downhill is good. If you have a good ski resort with a good ski tow, I guess that's acceptable as well. But anybody, Becky, you said you had some questions for us.
Yep. I had one question. This came from Lewis, who is not here with us, but he wants to know, why did you want to become a rabbi?
Well, that's a good question. You know, as a layperson, without being a rabbi, I could have certainly helped people in many ways also. But this gives me the knowledge. Part of my job is I have to know Hebrew, because the original Bible was not written in Latin or Greek or English. It was written in Hebrew. So I have to know the Bible in Hebrew. I have to know the Torah, as our scrolls are all written in Hebrew and we read from them each week. And that required a lot of additional study. It also obligates me to lead people in prayer and to study all the time. So it's more of a level of study than anything else, of learning. And it designates a commitment. It also means I can meet with other rabbis from all over Wisconsin and Minnesota regularly to share things that we're going through, and to also be part of the Interfaith Leaders Coalition that meets once a month. To be a full member of the clergy is very important. Conducting funerals and weddings, you don't have to be a clergy person, but it doesn't hurt when you're having a wedding to have a rabbi sign the marriage certificate and have an official prayer-based wedding. So, in fact, I'm having my own wedding next year. My fiance lives in Milwaukee, and I somehow convinced her to move to La Crosse. So,
Well, congratulations.
thanks. So it'll be a public wedding, not at the synagogue. So we expect to have a lot of people. It'll be in June of next year, and we want to have it outdoors. So there's plenty of room for all the people who want to show up. And most people just come for the hors d'oeuvres anyway. But I'm looking forward to that. So I'll have another rabbi come to the previous rabbi who was here to lead the service and marry us. So that's I hope that answered the question, Pastor Becky.
Yes. And I see Lewis just joined us. And Lewis, I just asked your question that you had wondering, asking why Rabbi Brian had
Okay.
wanted to become a pastor.
Sorry, I was a bit late because I was just using the wrong link instead of the one that you had.
Well, welcome.
That's-
You got here just in time, Louis.
So, okay, any of you who are here, do you have other questions? Otherwise, I have a list from a few more of you that sent them to me.
Well, Becky, why don't I go through a little bit of formal presentation, and then
Sounds good.
along
Sounds
the
good.
way, please stop me to ask any questions, okay? I made up a little PowerPoint to share. So that was so. I think the most important. Can you see that on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the most important thing is Jews are always being called in history. They've always been the people of the book. So what book are we talking about? Our Bible, the Hebrew Bible, which you call the Old Testament, consists of 3 sections. Most of you are really familiar with the Torah, the first 5 books of Moses, which are also called the Pentateuch or the Chumash. These first books are, anybody know the first book of the Bible? 10 points if you get it. Oh, they're all muted, I guess. But
Go ahead, Hazel.
The first 5 or the first one?
first 5 if you know them.
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
Boy, give her an A for today, Pastor Becky. So the first 5 books are the same ones that we share with all of Christianity. And it's the first 5 books, which has all the stories of the people, Adam and Eve, Noah and his family. Later on, of course, Abraham and Sarah, their son Isaac, who almost gets sacrificed. Jacob, who was kind of a dreamer. He dreamed of the ladder going up to heaven with angels going up and down the ladder all day. And he didn't use a My Pillow. That's why he didn't sleep very well that night, right? So he had to use a rock. He used a rock for his pillow. And there's all those stories about people interacting with each other. What I love about the first 5 books of Moses, it's very personal. These are life stories of what I feel are real people who really existed. Joseph, when he gets back with his brothers, he reveals his identity to his brothers. They thought he was Egyptian, and he reveals himself to his brothers. Anybody knows what he does as soon as he reunites with his brothers? How does he feel emotionally?
I know we talked about this, gang.
Anyway, just to know that he cried, he hugged his brothers and cried on their necks, on their shoulders. That is so vivid to me. It's not just a Bible story. These are real people with real emotions and feelings from 3,000 years ago. That is so real to me. To see that kind of emotion discussed in something that's been carried around for 3,000 years. That's a long time to carry these stories. And to me, they're not just legends or myths. These really happened. These are real people with real qualities, sometimes not good ones. They have anger, they do bad things, but they also repent and say they're sorry. So the second section of the book for the Jews is Nevi'im, or prophets. Can anybody name one of the prophets? Anybody, just blurt it out. Any prophet at all. How about
Isaiah?
Isaiah, Ezekiel, Jeremiah? Don't worry, there are 24 of them, but so I didn't want you to memorize them all. But anyway, the prophets are people who were telling the public they didn't have newspapers in those days. The prophets would go out in the center of the city and tell the people what God wanted them to do. They would also talk to kings. Kings didn't always listen to God's advice, but so those are the Nevi'im, which is Hebrew for prophets. And the last section, maybe a little less holy, a little less divine, probably maybe not written by God, but written by people, are the writings. I know you know some of these. The most important one for us is called the Psalms. The 23rd Psalm, the Lord is my shepherd. I know you all know that. There's a couple of Psalms we all know pretty much by heart. Their Psalms are things we can use when we feel bad and we want to feel better. There's Psalms we can use to help other people feel better. There's Psalms about peace. So there's 150 Psalms, which I'm going to read to you right now. I'm not going to read 150 Psalms to you. The writings also include books like Job. I know everybody knows the story of Job, who was tested by God. And if you don't, it's something you might want to learn, might want to read this year. Is a story of Job. What do you do when somebody really gets challenged by God? So these are the book. This is the book, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the prophets, and the writings. We've been carrying those around in one form, usually in the scroll form you see in front of you. This is what we have in our synagogue. It's a scroll, not a book, because books were only invented maybe 500 years ago. Before books, before printing, we had scrolls. These are written by hand. It takes a scribe, specially trained rabbis, a year to write the scroll of the just the first 5 books of Moses. It takes them a whole year to write this scroll, and these are not cheap. It can, that's that job which can take all day for a whole year. We might have to pay $20,000 or $30,000 for a scroll like this, and the older ones are worth even more. So yeah, we carry a lot of insurance on them. But these books, these are not kept in the ark. We actually read these each week. We take it out and read a section. It's divided into 52 weeks. So each week we read a section and put it back, and we take it out again next week and read another section. So this week, the section we're reading is really interesting. Many of you know the story about the Israelites escaping from the Egyptians. Remember, they're slaves, and they escaped from the Egyptians, and unfortunately, they came up to a body of water. Anybody remember what happened when the Israelites came up to the body of water, the Red Sea? The Red Sea. What did they do?
It split.
Did they turn back to Egypt?
No.
No. Moses took his arm and a staff, and he raised it up, and the sea parted, and the people were able to walk across dry land and get to the other side. And of course, the Egyptian army was stopped at the river, at the sea. So that's what we're reading today. It's pretty exciting this week to read that story.
Question for you, Rabbi.
Yeah.
How heavy is one of those scrolls? Because I know
The
in
one
past years,
the one you're looking at only weighs about 15 pounds. It's very light. But remember, if you see it, the handles and the rollers are made out of wood. So one of them weighs about 40 pounds, one of the ones we have. So we need a really big guy to carry those around, or a strong woman, either way. This one is the one I carry when we carry it around and lift it up and everything. It's only about 20 some odd pounds though. But it's a long scroll. It's about 210 feet long when you unravel it all the way. And you can see there's kind of a line in the middle between each section. Does anybody know what this parchment is made from? What are these scrolls? There's not paper. What do you think it's made out of? Anybody know?
I think it's leather.
It's a leather. Where does leather come from?
Cows and that kind
Cows,
of
right.
thing.
This is parchment. Parchment is dried skin of animals. It lasts forever. This Torah you're looking at it right now is 110 years old. So that lasts a long time. And these letters that are written are also wrong section. They read also a long time. They're done with a quill pen, and the letters can last on here for many, many years without needing to be refreshed. So it's really amazing. And they're all sewn together. Every 2 feet, it's sewn together, these pieces of parchment, which stay forever. Now they can, get broken after a while, and they can repair them or put new sections in. That's why these are in pieces to scroll together. So people want to know, is Judaism a religion? What do you think? Yes or no? Is it a people, or is it the Jewish people? Is it a nation? Is it a race? Is it an ethnic group? Well, over the years, over the centuries, Jews have been called all these things. But Jews are not just a religion. You don't have to pray in order to be a Jew. If you're born a Jew or you convert to Judaism, you are a Jew no matter where you live, whether you know the prayers or not. You don't have to be religious. You are part of a people. So if I go to New York or California or South America and I meet another Jewish person, we have a lot in common. We know about this book and we share many of the same religious beliefs. And we feel very close to people, just like you might if you go to a Lutheran church in Milwaukee or California. You'll feel a very close connection with people who are raised the same way and share your same beliefs and prayers. So never a race. Under World War II and the Nazis tried to say there were different races, not based on skin color, but where you came from. Like the Polish people are a race and the Russians are a race and the Jews are a race. That doesn't exist. They're not a race group. Some people think they're an ethnic group because they share certain kinds of cultures. So somebody asked me the other day, how does somebody become a Jew? We don't proselytize. We're not looking to get a lot of new Jews to join. But if somebody comes to us and said, Rabbi Brian, I'd like to learn more about Judaism, and if they study for a year or two and they do some of the practices and they get baptized, we use a mikveh or a ritual bath, they can become a Jew. So it's really something that's voluntary if people are interested in it. So what does it mean to be Jewish? A lot of people think that it's a Jewish food. Maybe tell me a Jewish food that you know of. Don't be shy. You might have to unmute yourself.
Matzah.
Matzah, the flatbread that we eat on Passover. Some of you know that Jesus and his disciples were having a dinner, the Last Supper, on the Jewish holiday of Passover. The Last Supper was a holiday meal called the Passover Seder, and they were eating matzah. The famous painting that is in Italy, which we saw last year, or a year and a half ago, went to visit Italy, was a Passover dinner, and they were eating matzah at that meal. Another one people don't realize is a Jewish food, comes from a company called Einstein or Brugger's. They're round and they have a hole in it. Anybody know
Eat
what
them
that's
with cream
called?
cheese.
It has cream cheese on it.
Don't. Oh, bagels.
Bagels. Bagels were invented in Poland by Jewish people, bakers. They cook quickly. They're fried. A lot of people don't realize they're fried and boiled and fried. Anyway, so bagels were a Jewish food. Now they're a pretty common American food. Now, Jewish people never put any kinds of fruit in them. You wouldn't have a blueberry bagel. If you were Jewish, you can have, at most, you'll have onions on the outside. Though some people invented an everything bagel where you can have sesame seeds and onions and all kinds of stuff. So bagels are very much a Jewish food. What about life cycle events? Of course, there's birth and death, of course, and marriage. But can anybody think of a life cycle event, something that happens during your childhood, maybe, that only Jewish people have, maybe only Jewish boys?
Go ahead, Hazel.
I don't know when that just boys do.
Yeah, it's called circumcision. And that's one thing that's done as a life cycle event. Another one, when they're 13 years old, most Jewish boys or girls have a bar mitzvah for boys or a bat mitzvah for girls. They're considered adults. And as far as the Jewish community goes, they can lead services. They can do all the responsibilities of an adult. They get to read from the Torah, the scroll you just saw. And after that, they can participate at any level of the synagogue, be very involved in the community and committees and things like that. And so that's pretty exciting. So some people make a big party of it. I don't know if we've done it too much here in La Crosse, but I know some places they have, a DJ and a lot of dancing and stuff and a big meal. So that's something that's a life cycle event that a lot of people your age might know about. Has anybody heard or been to a bar mitzvah? No? Okay. Worship services. We have services instead of Sunday. We worship God on Saturdays. That kind of goes back to the seventh day being the day of rest, and our week starts on Sunday, so it ends on Saturday. Here in the United States, we have 2 Sabbaths, don't we? Everybody gets off from work. Most people get off from work on Saturdays and Sundays. So we have 2 Sabbaths, recognizing that we live in a country that was based on Jewish and Christian principles. So we really have 2 Sabbaths. It's kind of neat. In a lot of other countries, Italy, Israel, they only get 1 day off. In Israel, they get off Saturdays. They got to go back to work and school on Sunday. In Italy, they get Sundays off, but they have to work 6 days a week. And kids go to school 6 days a week in a lot of these countries. So aren't you glad you live in America with 2 Sabbaths? Yeah, I'm sure you do. Holidays. There's a lot of holidays. We have 11 holidays during the year, in addition to Thanksgiving and Halloween. We don't celebrate Easter or Christmas, but we have a lot of holidays, which we'll talk about in a minute. Also, Jews are required by the Bible to have a connection to God that says we're all holy. We can all talk to God anytime we want. We don't really have to go to the synagogue. We can be spiritual at the top of Granddad's Bluff, or paddling down the Black River in a kayak, which my son and I have done. You can feel very spiritual and connected to God and to nature in those places. We don't require that you go to a prayer book or any special place to connect to God. You can be holy in your own house, which really helps, with the pandemic when you're stuck in your house for a year. There's a lot of Jewish music out there, which we'll show you in a minute, but Jewish music is very important. And a lot of it is in Hebrew. More modern prayers are in English, because a lot of people don't know Hebrew anymore, but they have a very special sound, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. We have the Torah. A lot of people know this book, and they learn it either in English or in Hebrew. They learn at least the first 5 books of the Bible. Very important for Judaism. And then with this mitzvot. A mitzvah is a commandment. Now, most of you know about the 10 Commandments. Can anybody tell me one of the 10 Commandments?
Honor your father and mother.
Yeah, that's not an easy one when they're yelling at you, is it? So that's one of the top ones. That's one of the top commandments, is to honor your father and mother. And you honor them not just by listening to them and behaving. It means when you're not in your house and when you're out in the world, you do things that would make them proud of you. So that's a very important mitzvah, a very important commandment. So one holiday that a lot of people know about is Passover. Does anybody know what Passover celebrates? We just talked about it. It has to do with escaping from slavery and going to freedom in Egypt.
Oh, go ahead,
The
Hazel.
exodus of the Israelites.
Exactly. What happens here is God passed over the houses of the Israelites in that last plague, which was terrible, was the slaying of the firstborn, and people they put some lamb's blood on the door of their house, so the angel of death would pass over their houses. Some people also think Passover means passing over the dry land. Instead of getting drowned in the ocean, they were able to escape from the Egyptians and pass over to the Holy Land. So that's every holiday we have is connected to something that happened in Jewish history. Does anybody know the holiday that happens around Christmas time for Jewish people?
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. What are some of the things we do on Hanukkah? Anybody know? Well, one thing is we take these little dreidels and spin them. It's a game that kids love to play, and you play it with chocolate coins. That everybody's given chocolate coins. They're actually metal coins with chocolate inside. and you can it's kind of gambling a little bit, but depending on what Hebrew letter it lands on, you get H, that's hey in Hebrew, you get half of the pot, the money, the coins. Gimel, you take it all, and Nun, you get nothing, and Shin, you have to give in one. So it's a really great game that people play, and at the end they get to eat some of the chocolate coins. These days they have mostly dark chocolate, so kids don't like them as much. But dark chocolate is probably healthier for you. So we do the spinning. Everybody has these tops, these dreidels. They're very popular. Another thing we do is we light candles. You might see in the background of our synagogue, those are called menorahs. On menorah we light 8 candles. We had a big lighting this past year. I think I can bring that up on the screen. Yeah, let me share that on the screen. If I go to, you have to open it first, don't you? Let's see. So I'll pull out the picture and go to Hanukkah. So share screen. There it is. So that's a menorah. Now, some of you might know the story of this menorah. Why there are 8 candles and a helper candle that lights all the others. Does anybody know the story of Hanukkah and why we celebrate it for 8 days?
There was, I don't know the whole story, but the basics of it, I think, is they have to keep this light in the temple burning, but they only had enough oil for 1 day, and the journey would take 8 days, but it kept burning for all of the days until they could get back with the oil.
Abby, you are so awesome. I got to get you to teach Sunday school by us. That is so true. See what happens? It's Abby, right? Was that
Yes,
right?
it was.
Okay. So yes, what happened was the Greeks had taken over, the Greek Empire had taken over the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, and the Maccabees, led by Judah and his brothers, their very small army, were able to defeat the Greek Empire and take back their temple in Jerusalem. And when they got inside, they realized that everything had been pretty much destroyed, and Greek idols, the gods of the Greeks were put all over the place. So they had to clean it up. It took them a while. And they only, like you said, they had only enough oil to light their menorah for 1 day. But they needed to have 8 days until they could make fresh olive oil. You know how you make olive oil? Anybody know how you make olive oil? Where does it come from? Olive oil.
Olives.
Olives, good guess. So how do you get oil out of an olive? You have to squeeze it, right? So they have to put it in a press and cure it and it takes at least a week or 2 to get fresh olive oil out of an olive. Although I like black olives, they're pretty good. But they use the green ones and they create olive oil. Now we can just go to Festival Foods and pick up some extra virgin olive oil, but in those days you couldn't do it. You had to make your own. So they had to do it, and you're right. The miracle was that they only had enough for 1 day, but it kept the lamps lit for 8 days. So to remember that great occurrence in Jewish history, they actually celebrated for 8 days. And it's kind of interesting. Some people have there's kind of an argument if you're supposed to start the first day and light all 8 candles, or do you light 1 new candle each night? So at the end, you have 8 candles lit. Some people want to start with have 8 candles lit every night. Which way do you guys like it? Have them all lit every night, or just do 1 new one each night until the 8 days are up? Anybody have a favorite way of doing that?
I've always heard of the 1 at a time.
Yeah, I think the 1 at a time, because is it light out or dark out in December? It's dark out, right? It's a dark time of the year. And when we have the light increasing every day, it's really a really nice thing. But in order to do that, you have to have a lot of candles, don't you? The first night you need 1 candle, right? And you also need the helper. That's 2 candles. The second night you need 2 candles and a helper. That's 3. The third night you need how many? 3 candles and a helper. You need 44 candles by the end of Hanukkah to have it lit every night. One new one each night. It takes 44 candles, 1 + 2 + 3 + 4. So it, because these candles only last for an hour or two. They don't last 8 days. So you have to get a new candle every night. So it's a lot of fun for the kids to. Now, so we also have electric menorahs if you don't like having flames in the house. We also have done it in front of City Hall. We had a giant menorah, it was about 10 feet high, and we lit it with big torches this year. So it was a lot of fun. Anybody else know something else about Hanukkah? What else do Jews do during Hanukkah? Something that the kids really like. Anybody guess?
Don't they get like presents like a week before or something?
Well, they're very good. So who said that? Who was that?
That was Chase.
Chase, good point. You're supposed to get a present every day for 8 days. You heard of the 12 days of Christmas. I don't know how many of you get 12 presents in 12 in a row, but the idea is to give something little each day. You don't get like a Barbie doll or a PlayStation every day. That would be something little, like a deck of cards, and maybe after a few days. So you get something small each day, and at the end you get a big present. That's how many families do it, as they save up for something. At the end, you get a big Monopoly or, some, maybe a PlayStation. I don't know, but whatever the family can afford to get. The idea is that it builds excitement. And of course, a lot of their Christian friends are also getting nice presents for Christmas. But we don't have a tree to put it under. We just open it up. So I do know some kids who did get a couple of different presents. You just get one present under the tree, right? Anybody have more than one present sometimes under the Christmas tree? So, or sometimes just one big one. So that was, any questions about Hanukkah? So Hanukkah obviously has nothing to do with Christmas, except here in America, we celebrate it right down the street. And Jews are kind of jealous with, we don't have any lights in our house, In my neighborhood here, near the church, some of the people have incredible displays for Christmas. Anybody ever go to the Rotary Lights down by Riverside Park? Yep. It's incredible. Each year they add more. Yeah, Cole and Chase. They add more and more. Elena, they add more and more lights. I think they have 2 million light bulbs down there now. And they also have a lit up tree at the top of Granddad's Bluff. So for us, for most Jews, they put an electric menorah in the window. And they're kind of jealous that everybody's lighting up the neighborhood nearby. I have one neighbor down the street. I think it's on 16th Street. They must have a big electric bill because they have like 14 giant lit up things and giant inflated Santas and stuff like that. So it can be a big. The idea is to have a holiday of lights, and that's really what Hanukkah is about, during a dark time to celebrate. So, any questions about that? No? Okay, let's go back to our discussion. The Seder. This is really interesting. The Passover has a special meal called Seder. That's, of course, what Jesus and his followers were doing at the Last Supper. They were eating different food. Besides the matzah, they had a few foods here that represented important connections for the Jewish people. Now, what time of year do you think Passover takes place? I'll give you a hint. It's near another holiday that's really important to Christianity. What time of the year does it take place?
It takes place in winter.
What? No, not Christmas. Remember, Hanukkah's close to Christmas. What's the
Easter.
What's the Christian holiday that takes place in the spring?
Easter.
Easter.
That's right. So it always happens within a couple of days of Easter. Easter is close to the solstice, and it's always based on when the solstice happens. So these are some representative things that we eat that remind us of the past. So can anybody identify one of the things in the Seder plate? One of the foods that we have here? Anybody?
Lettuce, cilantro, and I think bone meal.
A bone. So the lettuce, what does lettuce represent? I mean, you can't grow lettuce in the winter, can you? Can you?
Not outside here.
Not outside. So it's a spring holiday, right? So we're celebrating the spring. Now, parsley or cilantro, whatever you want to use there, is used also to represent the spring, but we don't eat it by itself. We take salt water, you put a lot of salt in a cup of water, and we dip the cilantro or parsley into it, and then we eat it with a taste of salt water on it. The salt water represents the tears of the slaves in Egypt. They were very sad because they were in slavery. They hated building pyramids and stuff, and they were being treated very badly. And this represents the tears. So we do celebrate the spring, but we take a little bit of that celebration away by remembering the sadness and the tears of the slaves. The next thing we have is a shank bone. It can be any kind of bone, but this is a bone from an animal, and it represents the Paschal sacrifice. And many of you know about the sacrifice. I believe that Jesus was considered a sacrifice for humanity. Isn't that correct, Pastor Becky?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So this represents the sacrifice that we were supposed to do on Passover. It says in the Bible, every Passover, to remember, you're supposed to slaughter a lamb and eat the lamb, and like a barbecue, as a representation. Here on the Seder plate, for Christians, it also means a foretelling, a portent of the coming of Jesus later on. Another thing that we eat here that's very popular on the right-hand side is it's made out of walnuts and apples and honey and wine. It's called charoset, and it tastes really good, obviously. Walnut, if you like walnuts. Anybody here like honey? So walnuts and honey and cut up apples and maybe raisins. And it's supposed to represent the mortar, the cement that the slaves used in Egypt to build the buildings for Pharaoh that they had. So it looks like mortar, but it tastes really good. It doesn't taste like cement. Another thing that you see there, what's that white thing at the top of the screen? Anybody know?
Egg.
It's an egg. What does an egg represent? New life, right? It represents new life, and it's springtime. That's what the egg represents. So we have some foods that we eat at the Seder table. It's really kind of nice, and the kids also love the various candies that are eaten at this time as well. So we'll go on. Oh,
What's that? Is that cauliflower? What is that last stuff there?
Um,
Or is that the bitters?
That's bitter herbs. It's
Okay.
really horseradish can come in two colors.
Okay.
What's the other color that horseradish comes in? Red, right?
Okay.
Horseradish is red. I don't know if you guys ever eat horseradish. It's bitter, but some people like it on steak or some other things. It also comes in white, which isn't so bitter. But the idea is to remember the bitterness of slavery. So you can dip things in there like parsley, like broccoli. Most people don't like it. They dip it in there and then they quickly drink a lot of water. So it's part of the ceremony of the Seder. So let's go on. There's we talked about dipping parsley or cilantro, whatever you want. Dip it into salt water. The bitter herbs and the eggs, of course, and then the shank bone. And some people make it just with apples. The charoset, the mortar kind of thing. This is what Pastor Becky talked about before. Matzah. Can anybody see a difference between the two kinds of matzah here? Anybody?
One is
the square, one is the circle.
Yeah, the one on the left looks like it was made by machines, right? Like a machine bakery. Like machine making all these matzah, cutting them off. The one on the right was not made by a machine. It was made by people using a long wood handle to put it in, take it in and out of a hot oven. And you see they're not flat, they're a little bit bent. And these are made by people by hand. This is a very special matzah called shmora matzah. It's available for those people who want to use the same kind of matzah they made in Egypt 4,000 years ago when the Israelites got out of Egypt. So it's kind of cool to use the old-fashioned kind of matzah. What would you put on matzah to make it taste good? Anybody know what might taste good on matzah? What kind of things you put on crackers like this to make them taste better?
Salt.
Cheese.
Salt, cheese. Yeah, some people like to put cream cheese on there, or cheese curds. Hey, this is Wisconsin, right? I really like to put sometimes jelly, a little jelly maybe on it, or peanut butter tastes good on it as well. And now some people want to know about the different kinds of Judaism. So there's a few different kinds of Judaism. Orthodox means what the word means is really very traditional. The same kind of Judaism practiced for the last 3,000 years is considered Orthodox Judaism. And there's some things that Orthodox Jews do. You'll always see Orthodox Jews in the big cities. They wear black hats. I think I have a picture. Excuse me, I have a picture of that. Now I'll pull up here. The dress, they're really known by their dress, by how they dress. And I'll see here. I think it's this one. Oh, it's the other one. Oh, here it is. And share screen. Close that. Share screen. There we go. Can anybody see that picture? You see that? Becky,
Yeah.
you see that?
Yes, yes.
All right, so notice that they have these hats. I mean, different kinds of hats. The guy on the left just has a regular kind of, dress hat. Some of these are made out of expensive furs. The one on the right is called a strimal. They've been wearing hats like that since the 1600s, and starting in Poland and Russia, and now in Israel and in New York, and parts of and even in LA, you will see people wearing those hats, even in the summer. Imagine how hot that is wearing that during the summer. It's nice to have in this time of year. Otherwise, this guy holding the candle is just wearing a regular cap, like a driver's cap or a cabbie or something. What do you see they all have in common about their face?
They all have beards.
They all have beards. The Bible prohibits you from cutting your sideburns and your hair, your facial hair. So these Orthodox people who are very traditional will having beards. Not the women. Not required by women. Unless they want to grow a beard, that's something else. But so these are very traditional dress. They also believe in doing things like eating only certain foods. On the Sabbath, they would never drive on Saturday. Their cars are in the garage all day from Friday night till Saturday night. They won't drive. They won't go to the store. They won't spend money. They will hang out with their family and have dinner Friday night, Saturday morning, and Saturday lunch. They will go for walks and spend time with the family and friends. Not during the pandemic, you won't have any friends over, but they will never use a computer or their phone on Saturdays because it's considered the day of rest. God rested on the seventh day from creation. They rest on the seventh day. And so you'll see these people and their families. They're also very modest in how they dress. Orthodox women will usually have long sleeves and long pants or dresses going to the ankles. Kind of like Amish women, in that respect. Very conservative. Their hair will be up or even covered all the time by a scarf or even by a wig to not show to the outside world. Very conservative, very old-fashioned, let's say. And that represents right now about 20% of Jews in the world are Orthodox. And they've maintained this kind of lifestyle for hundreds and hundreds of years. Um, as a reaction to that, a lot of people said, you know, this back in the 1900s, people wanted to become more modern, so they started doing things in Europe, like having services on Sunday, just like the Christians next door would do. They stopped wearing hats. They shaved their beards. So they would look just like their neighbors, whether they're England or France or Germany. They wanted to be dressed the same as their neighbors. They even had organs in their temples, rather than not allowing instruments, which the Orthodox wouldn't allow. So that they became the Reformed Jews, which is now the largest movement in Judaism in both the United States and some in Israel. Represents maybe 60% of Judaism today. And in between, they have what's called conservative Judaism, which is kind of said, look, we don't want to, we don't want to wear the black hat all the time, but we still want to maintain some of our traditions. They felt the reform had eliminated too many practices, so um, they have the headgear, the yarmulke, and they wear this prayer shawl, which we use all the time in our synagogue. And a lot of you notice that I'm wearing a kippah. What do you think the purpose of a round headgear? I mean, I know the Catholic Pope wears these, as do bishops and cardinals. What's the purpose of having something on your head? And you have an idea? True for any religion. Why have something on your head? Can you guess? What's above us all the time? Not literally, but figuratively. When we believe in God, what's greater than we are? It's God. It's a reminder that God's always hanging around and watching. And some of us don't need a reminder, right? We're always going to behave well and etc. But if you're wearing one of these, it's saying you better behave all the time. Kind of reminds me, there's somebody who keeps a list each year and sees if you're naughty or nice. Oh, but that's a different thing. Some people think God is like Santa Claus, God's watching from heaven, and if Brian does a good thing today, I let somebody cross the street in front of me on Cass Street, and I slow down for pedestrians. Brian's going to have a good day because God will be happy with that. That's not why I do these things. I do it because it's the right thing to do, not because God's watching all the time. But it doesn't hurt to have some kind of reminder. Many Jews only wear these in their synagogue. They don't wear it on the street. I usually wear a hat of all types, though. I have all kinds of hats that I wear. So, since I'm a rabbi, rabbis usually wear hats. So, uh, any questions so far? How are we doing on time? We almost done, or
We're
okay?
nearing the end.
I'm gonna finish. Go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted to ask, is your synagogue Reformed then, or what are you considered?
We were conservative for about the last 40 years, but when I joined, we have a lot of people who are intermarried, who are interfaith families, Catholics or Lutheran husbands or wives living with Jewish husbands or wives, and they want to be involved with the synagogue. So we really had to change our affiliation to Reform to satisfy everybody. I play my guitar in the synagogue, which we'll do as we do our last song here. I think it'd be nice to to end with a song. Would that be okay with you?
That would be great.
Okay. So, anybody have any questions before we finish up?
Go ahead, Hazel.
Earlier you mentioned that you put the scrolls in an ark. What is the ark?
Well, anybody ever see the Indiana Jones movie, The Raiders of the Lost Ark? The picture behind me shows the ark. It has a curtain in front of it, and it's like a closet, and it holds 4 Torahs right there. 4 of the scrolls are kept there all the time. So it's not secret. We can open it up and take them out, but it's a special holy place. It was mentioned in the Bible. That's why that movie came out, Raiders of the Lost Ark. This ark is supposed to be such an important, powerful place, but God doesn't need an ark. God can do miracles anytime. But there's an ark in every synagogue in the United States, around the world, always has a closet like that with a curtain in front of it. And in the closet, you'll have anywhere from 1 to 5 Torah scrolls. So it's a place where we keep our Torah scrolls right behind us, and we take it out. In fact, I think in the picture there are some. Yeah, there's some scrolls on the reading table right there. I was almost called it an altar, but it's not. So yeah, so I'm gonna bring out a song that we like to do when we end our services, and it's about the going on a journey, because when we go out in the world, it is kind of like a journey. So I'll pull it up here, and let's see. Songs. There it is. And share screen. And it's it's called Tefillat Haderech. It's a prayer as we go on our way. So I'll pull out my guitar here, which I love doing. To be only, Reformed synagogues, you can play this. You can play these in the. We can't have instruments in a conservative or Orthodox congregation. They don't allow any.
What about all the musical instruments in the Psalms?
Well, they were those, especially Psalm 150, right? Praise God with the psaltery and with the harp and with cymbals. But that was in the old temple in Jerusalem, which was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70, right?
Okay.
And ever since the temple was destroyed, the Jews aren't really allowed to have music in their synagogues and their temples all around the world, because we are still upset having lost our temple 2,000 years ago. That's been changed. The Reform movement said, hey, we got temples now. They're in every city. So we can do that. And that we feel, and a lot of people love having music, playing drums or guitars or keyboards or organs in the synagogue. So people are reached by music, May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and with joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. May we be sheltered by the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. And may this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. Isn't that pretty? I love that, and people love that. They always leave in a good way. There's no Hebrew in that one, but people really love it, and a lot of people who don't know Hebrew really enjoy it. I want to thank you all for visiting with us today. And I wanted to leave you with one thing. This is called a shofar. I'm going to turn off the fancy picture in the background. There we go. Oh, I'm in my living room now. This is called, anybody know what this is called? Anybody? Do you know where it comes from? What it comes from? Can you guess?
The horn of an ox.
It's well, it's a bigger. It's
It
a
looks like
horn
a
of a
horn.
it's a horn of a gazelle. In this case, a gazelle from South Africa. Now we use this in a lot of ways, but you're not allowed to take these off the animal. That would be bad. They shed them every year, just like other animals shed their skin. These come off the animals by the hundreds, by the thousands in certain parts of mostly Africa and Asia, and then people gather these and sell them. And they're hollow inside, so they make a sound if you blow on the mouthpiece. They're used in the old days, of course, when they're going into battle and Joshua wants to fight the Battle of Jericho and the walls came tumbling down. Now we use it to announce the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. It's also used in other kinds of celebrations, and it sounds like this. So that wakes up people and it gets them going. So anyway,
I think we need that at English Lutheran.
the idea is supposed to wake you to prayer. If you're sitting in the back pew reading the newspaper, this will wake you up and say, hey, pay attention. So thank you all. This has been such a real treat. I hope next time we can meet in person when the pandemic is over and we can share some food with you. We have grape juice and all kinds of cookies and other things, brownies and things that we make when we have people visit us. So I'm so grateful to meet all of you, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your week.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Brian, for welcoming us into your home and sharing a little bit about the Jewish faith with us. And all right, 7th graders, I will send you an email shortly with a bit of homework from tonight, as well as a little bit information about next week. So thank you so much. I will see you next
I really
week
enjoyed it. Thank you,
at our
Pastor.
regular times.
Thank you.
And Rabbi Brian, will you send me this recording when you get a chance?
As soon as it's done. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank
Be
you.
well. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great night.
You too.
See ya.